Alright guys, so I just wanted to make a video and kind of talk about what happened because I got a lot of guff from people because for some reason they seem to think that I'm just not a good fish keeper, and that's just not the case. So stay tuned. I'll be back in 1 second. Make sure to hit the subscribe button because pretty soon we're going to start building a fish room. Alright, so here's what happened, right? So I had 15 buckets of fish. I had over 100 fish, easy, probably like closer to 150. Alright, so I've got all these temporary tanks set up. I've got the 240 breeders, the 90s over there. All the fish in there are doing fine. It was 2 buckets of fish that really had a hard time. So I kind of wanted to talk about why they had a hard time. So I'll show you here in a second. You can see I have seeded sponge filters running in these tanks, right? So these were all sponge filters that were already in tanks. I rinsed them off in tank water before I put them in the buckets. And the fish that are in these buckets with the seeded sponge filters are fine. Where we had a problem was the buckets that had a lot of my cichlids out of the 125. So I made the video and I showed you guys that the red Texas murdered my jags, and one survived. But the one that survived, between the stress of moving and the injuries he sustained, he keeled over. The problem was, he died at night. Alright, so he died at some point, not yesterday night, but the night before. A lot of people, don't know, but I had to leave yesterday at 6 a.m. to go back to Stroudsburg. Alright, so it's a 2-hour drive. Right, we had to be in court by 10 o'clock. We had some family court stuff to take care of for my daughter. All right, so we took care of that. We went and picked her up at our friend's house because that's where she was while we were in court. And by the time I got back, it was probably 6 o'clock. The jag dying in the bucket kind of made the bucket disgusting, and because of that, the fish died. Right, they didn't die because I did something wrong. They didn't die because it was too hot. They didn't die because they lacked aeration in the water. I had thermometers in all the buckets. I check the temperature of the buckets every once in a while. It stays about 78, 79, 80 degrees. And that's fine. That's tolerable for all the fish I have. So they died because a fish died in the bucket, and I didn't get to it in time. Now, I love my fish, right? And I'm a responsible fish keeper, generally speaking. I don't lose fish. So for the people to turn around and say, oh, you did this horrible thing, like, you messed it all up. I moved fish and I never lost fish. You never moved a whole fish room, right? And usually what you would do is you would have an opportunity to set tanks up before you moved. And that's what I did in the past. I would set tanks up, bag the fish up, bring them, dump them in the new tanks, and use them, like I would have a holding thing like this set up before I got here. We didn't have that option. We had to do a simultaneous close on the houses. What that means is in the morning, we closed on our house in Stroudsburg and sold it. And we drove all the way out here and closed on our new house. The only thing we were allowed to do is put stuff in the garage. And by that, I mean we had movers dump most of our stuff in this 2-car garage. The people that sold us the house were nice enough to let us do it. But I didn't get a chance to set up any holding tanks prior to. That made this hard. And I had to return the moving truck that we had the next day. I had to unload what was in there, drive all the way back 2.5 hours, 2 hours to Stroudsburg, load the truck up again with the rest of our stuff, with only one friend. Christopher Matzko helped me so much. I know Scott talks about him, but I'm going to tell you, Chris is an awesome dude. He stayed with me from 5 o'clock in the afternoon when he got here after he got off work until about 2 o'clock in the morning when I dropped him off. And I couldn't have done it without Chris. Like, I'm a big dude, I'm a strong dude, but man, after loading and unloading trucks all day, packing for the last 3 days, I was shot. And if it wasn't for Chris, I would have never got it done. So we had to do all that, right? So I didn't have time to come in here and set up all these tanks and get them ready for fish. I just didn't. And my family and our new house takes precedence over everything. I can always buy more fish. That said, yes, I'm very sick about the fish I lost. Those 2 Severum that I paid over $100 for, they're gone. I lost a pair of them because that jag died in the bucket. I lost one of my pike cichlids. I lost 2 of the flower horns. I lost a couple of the blackthroat tilapia. They jumped out of the tank. My rosaline barb jumped out of the tank. So I've lost, a lot of fish, and it makes me sick because I take very good care of my fish. I really do, and I care about my fish a lot. So losing that many fish really upset me. And then having everybody have the gall to come at me and say, oh, you should have done this, you should have... I know what I'm doing, all right? Was there better ways to do it? Absolutely. Ideally, I would have been able to set up all these holding tanks first, come over here, put the fish in the tanks out of the buckets, and everything would have been fine. I didn't have that option, right? So it is what it is. I did the best I could with what I had. And to the folks that are supporting me, saying, hey, I've been there, or hey, they don't know what it's like to move a fish room, they are absolutely right, and I sincerely appreciate you guys. The guys that are out there supporting me, the gals that are out there supporting me, those of you that had words of encouragement, I really appreciate you because I needed it after everything that happened. Again, I am a responsible fish keeper, but I'm a father first. So what I needed to take care of with my daughter was far more important than these fish. I love these fish, and I'm going to bust my butt to build a gorgeous fish room. We have a contractor coming out to, do some of the work. I need electrical run and plumbing and a drain and stuff like that, but it's going to happen. So those of you, again, that have the gall to sit there and come after me, you've never moved over 150 fish. You've never had to move 40 fish tanks. You've never had to deal with all the stuff that I had to deal with in the time frame I had to deal with it. I had an impossible amount of work to do in an impossible amount of time. And I'm only one guy. Like, I'm a former Marine, I'm strong, I'm young, so I did it, I trucked through it, and I had to sleep for a whole day to recover. Like, I was that tired, and I'm still tired. My shoulders hurt, my back hurts. Like, I'm still exhausted. And it is so hot. Like, we have this heat wave here in PA right now. It is like 100 degrees outside. And I'm still sitting out here moving boxes and moving furniture and trying to get the rest of these tanks set up so I can get all the fish that are still in the buckets in them. But I did everything I could to make sure my fish were safe and to make sure I lost as few as possible. So that's great if you were able to move one tank and not lose your fish. I moved a dozen tanks and not lost fish. But it's because I was able to set up tanks immediately following, and I didn't have 4,000 more important things to do besides. Alright, so I just kind of wanted to make this video and really explain what happened. So those people that are out there saying, you're irresponsible, you did a terrible job, you're an idiot. Don't care, dude. I did the best I could. Right? And if you think you could have done better, by all means, give it a shot. Go collect the amount of fish and tanks and stuff I did and do everything I did in a day. You can't do it, because I could barely do it. Right? And I'm one of those people that, like, if I have to do something, I'm going to do it. But it sucked. Here's the 220 and the two 125s. I'm not even going to bother setting those up. I have enough 40 breeders and 55 gallons and stuff like that that I can set up temporarily, where it shouldn't be an issue. But this is our 2-car garage. We're actually just going to keep this a garage. I was thinking about it, and the more I think about it, I don't think I want that many tanks. So we have a 1-car attached garage. I won't show you right now because it's a disaster. I'm trying to get everything out of it so we can have the contractor come out. He's got to put in a subfloor and stuff like that for us. But once I get it cleaned out, I'll do a video and kind of go over my plans of what the new fish room is going to be like. So yeah, all this stuff to unpack and to move into the house or put it wherever it goes, and it's a lot. Plus, like I said, the attached garage is full of stuff as well. So I have a lot of work. I was in here probably till midnight last night, setting up tanks, and we have well water here, so the water's freezing cold, and there's no hot water hookup outside. So I had the hose and the python going last night, filling these tanks up so I could get fish in them. I only lost one of the Africans, which is great. And I got a lead on quite a few more fish. I'm not going to get any new fish until I get all the tanks set up I need to and everyone's got their home. And I really want to get the fish room mostly built before I start adding anything else. But there's a couple people close by that are getting out of the hobby or getting rid of the fish that they've been keeping. And I'm going to go scoop those up, and we'll have a pretty epic fish room going with a lot of fish. Right, a lot of cool fish, a lot of different fish. I'm really excited to get into the African side of the cichlid hobby. These guys are dope, man. And it's hard to tell because there's no light on them and it's a little dark in here. But like some of these OBs are really, really pretty. Like that one back there is going to be gorgeous. But yeah, I did the best I could. And like I said, you move a whole fish room and tell me how it goes. I'm not trying to give in to the trolls and to the haters, because I won't. I know I did the best I could and that there was nothing else I could do. It was unfortunate, and if the mistake that I made was putting the Jaguars in with the Texas cichlid. Like, that was the mistake that I made. That was my fault, you know, and I had assumed that because his disposition in the tank was very meek and mild, that he would do the same thing and not really bother anything. But he's a good size, you know, he's still not huge, he's not like fluffy, but he's still a good size Texas cichlid. So that was the mistake that I made. That was the sole mistake that I made that kind of catapulted and made this whole thing bad. Because I had the 125 split between 3 buckets, and unfortunately the bucket that had the Jag also had my pike in the severum in it. And when he died, and unfortunately got left in here because I didn't have time to check on him, destroyed the whole bucket. Almost every fish in the bucket died. And it's really sad because I paid a lot of money for those severums and I was really excited to breed them because it was a breeding pair. But it happens. I'll get more. You know what I mean? Like, I'll always have more fish. I still have a ton of fish. I still have all the Oscars, the Mayan cichlid, Fluffy, the Red Texas. I have one of my pikes. I still have 3 or 4 of the tilapia. The convict is still in there. Still have some of my earth eaters, the little baby lemon Oscar. I still have 5 out of the 7 flower horns. So I think I did pretty good. Again, the mistake that I made was putting the Jags in with the Texas cichlid, and unfortunately that had a lot more ramifications than losing a couple of Jags to an aggressive Texas cichlid. Yeah, that's it for today, guys. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Like I said, I'm going to be building an entire fish room. It's going to be nice. It's not going to be all cobbled together like the last one. The stands are going to be nice, the room's going to be nice, the floor's going to be nice. Central air system. I'm going to try my best for an auto water change system. If not, we'll figure something out. I have a lot of tanks. Most of them are stacked in the back corner of this garage. And yeah, so let me know down below if you've ever had to move with fish and what you learned from it. For me, it's really just be careful what you put together. Because that's really what I did wrong that kind of screwed me in the end and cost me a lot of fish. But that's it for today, guys. Peace out.